Number 12. 2014 Minneapolis pufferfish tetrodotoxin outbreak. In October 2014, 5 people in Minneapolis were poisoned after eating imported dried pufferfish sold locally as bok. Hennepin County Public Health and the Minnesota Department of Health traced it back through New York, then into informal Twin Cities supply channels serving the Southeast Asian community. The fish carried tetrodotoxin, a marine neurotoxin you would not taste, smell, cook away, or dry out. Inside you, it blocks voltage-gated sodium channels, the tiny gates nerves use to fire commands. Numbness spreads, weakness follows, and the signal can stop reaching the muscles that pull air into your lungs. Public health workers move to strip the remaining fish from circulation. Doctors can only keep you breathing until the toxin clears. There is no antidote. Number 11. 2016 Northern California death cap mushroom poisonings. In December 2016, a severe poisoning cluster in the San Francisco Bay Area traced back to wild mushrooms gathered after autumn rains. 14 people in Northern California became ill after eating Amanita phalloides in family meals, and 3 needed liver transplants, including an 18-month-old child treated at UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital, Oakland. The danger comes from amatoxins, especially alpha-amanitin, which survive cooking and quietly attack the liver and kidneys. Symptoms can wait 6 to 12 hours, then arrive as vomiting and diarrhea, sometimes easing just when the deeper damage is accelerating. These mushrooms are established in California with oaks and other hardwoods, and no folk test can separate dinner from disaster. Next, the dose gets smaller, the delivery colder, and the intent impossible to miss. Number 10. Georgy Markov's ricin umbrella pellet assassination. On September 7, 1978, Georgy Markov waited for a bus near Waterloo Bridge in London and felt a sharp sting in his right thigh. He had defected from communist Bulgaria and broadcast scathing attacks on its leadership through the BBC World Service, Radio Free Europe, and Deutsche Welle. That made him a target. He told doctors a man behind him had dropped an umbrella, apologized, and escaped in a taxi. Then the fever rose. Georgy Markov passed away on September 11th at St. James's Hospital in Balham, 4 days after the sting. In his thigh, pathologists found a platinum iridium pellet about 1.7 millimeters wide, drilled with 2 cavities and carrying traces consistent with ricin. No one was ever convicted. Bulgarian secret police with suspected KGB assistants were later identified as the likely architects. The device was almost invisible. The verdict was not. Number 9. Karen Wetterhahn's dimethylmercury laboratory death. Karen Wetterhahn was a Dartmouth toxicologist who studied how heavy metals damage DNA and cells. In August 1996, in Hanover, New Hampshire, a few drops of dimethylmercury landed on her gloved hand. Standard latex gloves are permeable to dimethylmercury. It passed through in seconds, then entered her body through lipid solubility and crossed the blood-brain barrier. For 20 weeks, no symptoms surfaced while mercury accumulated in neural tissue. When tremors, slurred speech, and loss of balance appeared, testing found blood mercury near 4,000 micrograms per liter, about 80 times a lethal threshold. Cerebellar degeneration followed. She died on June 8, 1997 at 48. Her death rewrote lab safety standards worldwide. Certified gloves had failed in under 15 seconds. Number 8. Seveso TCDD dioxin cloud. On July 10, 1976, a runaway reaction at the ICME SA plant in Mita blew open a safety valve and sent TCDD across Seveso, Mita, Cesano Maderno, and Desio. Givaudan, under Hoffman-LaRoche, was making 2,4,5-trichlorophenol for herbicides and disinfectants. The cloud carried 2,3,7,8 tetrachlorodibenzoparadioxin. In guinea pigs, its lethal dose is about 0.6 micrograms per kilogram. No immediate human deaths were attributed to the release, but TCDD does not need impact to do damage. It binds cellular receptors and changes gene signaling. Children developed chloracne. The Seveso Women's Health Study later found a 2.1-fold higher breast cancer risk in women with the highest blood levels. Authorities evacuated over 700 residents and culled more than 80,000 animals. You could not taste the dose. The skin found it first. Number 7. Alexander Litvinenko's polonium-210 teacup poisoning. Polonium-210 is an alpha emitter that can severely harm tissue from inside while leaving almost no warning outside the body. You could swallow a dangerous dose and a hospital radiation check might see nothing. On November 1, 2006, Alexander Litvinenko, a 43-year-old former FSB officer and Putin critic, met Andrei Lugovoy and Dmitry Kovtun at the Pine Bar of London's Millennium Hotel. British investigators investigators concluded polonium had been placed in a teapot serving his green tea. First came nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, symptoms that sent doctors toward poison but not radiation. Then his hair fell out, his throat developed ulcers, and his bone marrow failed. His immune system was wiped out. On November 23rd, he passed away from acute radiation syndrome, 22 days after tea. Investigators found contamination at 33 sites and screened hundreds of passengers. Sir Robert Owen's inquiry named the suspects, then reached higher, saying the fatal attack was probably approved by Nikolai Patrushev and Vladimir Putin. Number 6. Tokyo Subway Sarin Attack. On March 20th, 1995, Aum Shinrikyo turned 3 Tokyo subway lines into a nerve agent delivery system. 5 cult members boarded Chiyoda, Marunouchi, and Hibiya trains with liquid sarin sealed in plastic bags and wrapped in newspaper. At chosen stations, they pierced the bags with sharpened umbrella tips, stepped onto the platforms, and vanished into waiting cars. The poison spread through carriages and through Kasumigaseki Station, directly beneath Japan's parliament and ministries. You would have felt your pupils shrink, your vision narrow, your breathing falter mid-breath. Sarin disables acetylcholinesterase, the enzyme that tells nerves to stop firing, so their own nervous systems became the instrument of harm. 13 people lost their lives and more than 5,000 sought treatment. Mass harm had fit inside a newspaper. Number 5. Kim Jong-nam v. Ex-Airport Assassination. Kim Jong-nam was attacked on February 13, 2017 inside Kuala Lumpur International Airport 2 in a departure hall full of witnesses while traveling under the alias Kim Chol. Malaysian investigators said Siti Aisha and Duan T. Huang approached him, smeared liquid on his face, and walked away. The liquid was VX, a Schedule 1 nerve agent under the Chemical Weapons Convention. It blocks acetylcholinesterase. Nerve signals fire without stopping, glands overproduce, muscles lock, and the diaphragm gives out. The lethal dose on skin is invisible, a trace you would never notice until your vision tunnels. Kim reached the airport clinic, then died during transfer to Putrajaya Hospital. 4 North Korean suspects left through Jakarta, Dubai, and Vladivostok. Red notices went out within days. Extradition never did. Number 4. Don Sturgis Novichok perfume bottle poisoning. The weapon was hidden inside a counterfeit Nina Ricci Premier Jour perfume bottle, still sealed enough to look safe. Charlie Rowley had found it in Salisbury and gave it to Don Sturgis in Amesbury, about 8 miles away. On June 30th, 2018, she sprayed it onto her wrists. Novichok blocks acetylcholinesterase, the enzyme that lets nerves reset. Signals keep firing, muscles lock, breathing fails. A dose you would never detect on skin can become seizures, foaming, and collapse within minutes. It was the same kind used against Sergei and Yulia Skripal that March. Rowley survived after intensive care. Sturgis died on July 8th. Prosecutors later named 3 GRU officers, Denis Sergeyev, Alexander Mishkin, and Anatoly Chapiga. Police collected more than 1,300 exhibits. One discarded bottle became a second crime scene. Number 3. Goiânia cesium-137 chloride contamination. In September 1987, scavengers entered the abandoned Instituto Goiano de Radioterapia in Goiânia, Brazil, and removed a teletherapy unit nobody had secured. Inside was cesium-137 chloride, roughly 50.9 terabecquerels of radioactive powder. At Dever Alves Ferreira's scrapyard, the capsule cracked open and glowed blue in the dark. You would never see the dose that could be fatal. 6-year-old Lady das Neves Ferreira rubbed the powder on her skin and later ingested it. One man painted the glow on his body for a party. On September 29th, Maria Gabriela Ferreira brought the source to health officials, and radiation meters sounded the alarm. About 112,000 people were screened. 249 were contaminated. 4 lost their lives. Near Abadia de Goiás, 3,500 cubic meters of Goiânia remain sealed underground. Number 2. Juarez Cobalt-60 contaminated rebar incident. In December 1983, a discarded cancer therapy machine in Ciudad Juarez went to Yonki Phoenix for scrap. Inside sat Cobalt-60, a sealed gamma emitter used to irradiate tumors. Workers broke it open and spilled radioactive pellets into ordinary metal. Aceros de Chihuahua melted that scrap into rebar and table legs. Some pieces later measured hundreds of millisieverts per hour, enough to turn a building supply into an invisible radiation field field around you. On January 16, 1984, a truckload of rebar tripped alarms at Los Alamos. Investigators traced the trail back to Juarez. Mexican authorities identified roughly 17,000 contaminated sites, and recovery crews collected 4,000 metric tons of steel. The most exposed worker received an estimated 450 rem. Some rebar had already entered foundations, where you could stand beside it for months, accumulating a lethal dose and never know until the symptoms started. Number 1. Bhopal methyl isocyanate gas disaster. Bhopal begins on the night of December 2nd to 3rd, 1984, inside tank E610 at the Union Carbide India Limited pesticide plant. The facility made 7, a carbaryl pesticide. Water entered the methyl isocyanate tank, and the reaction drove heat and pressure upward until poison pushed through the vents. MIC does not just irritate tissue, it burns wet surfaces, floods lungs with fluid, and can scar corneas until sight turns cloudy. The dense gas rolled into nearby neighborhoods while people slept. You wake choking, eyes on fire, and running only pulls more gas into your lungs. India counted 3,787 immediate deaths. Later estimates exceed 15,000. The settlement was $470 million. The sentence was 2 years.